Hi guys! So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is how do I decide what videos I'm going to post every week? Originally I would just do them in order of requests, so I just do, whatever request order they came in, that's the order I would do them in. Of course that was back when I was only getting like 4 or 5 requests a year, and now I get like 4 or 5 requests a week, so there's no way that I can keep up with the number of requests that I get. So I developed kind of a system to decide which ones I will post each week, and since a lot of people ask me how I decide which ones to post, I thought I'd share that. So order number is still a big part of the decision making. The sooner it was requested, the more likely I am to get to it sooner. But the problem with that is because I get so many requests a week now, sometimes by the time I've gotten to a video, or sometimes by the time I've gotten to a request, the person who requested it doesn't even have a channel anymore, so I can't even tell them that I've got the video posted. So I've got some other criteria that go with it to try and even it out a little bit. So one of the other criteria is difficulty. I don't do as many difficult videos as I do easy videos because obviously the more difficult they are, the more time they take. And since I am a farmer, I always have kind of a crunch schedule, so I have to be able to work my videos in with my regular schedule, so the more difficult ones take more time, so they generally kind of get like pushed off a little farther when I'm in a block where I have more time, so they usually get pushed down for that. And also some of the more difficult ones take me longer to figure out how to do. Like I'm always thinking about how to do videos, but I don't always come up with answers. So the more difficult they are, the longer it takes me to figure out how to do them. So that would push them off a little sometimes if they're too difficult. And sometimes they'll just be on my skill level until I figure out how to do them. So sometimes the more difficult they are, I don't do as many difficult videos. Another one is desire for me. Do I even desire to make this? I've done a lot of videos of characters that I don't know or don't like or whatever, and that's fine, but I found that for a while I was just doing like all the requests right in a row, and I kind of burned out actually because I was doing a lot of characters that I either didn't know or didn't like, and it kind of became like a job instead of, a fun create costumes kind of thing. So by kind of interspersing ones that I really want to do with ones that I may not care about, I don't burn out, and it makes it easier for me to keep making videos, because otherwise it becomes kind of a job if you're just doing videos you don't like, and I don't want it to feel like a job. I love making costumes, so I don't want it to feel like a job, and if I intersperse the ones that I like with the ones I may not care about, then even the ones that I don't care about so much, they're fun because I'll like the techniques or whatever, because I'm not doing just videos of characters that I don't know. So that's another one, is making sure that I have characters that I want to do in with characters I may not necessarily want to do or not necessarily know who they are. So even though a request may not be as far back as another one, if it's one that I really want to do, I may bump it up just because I really want to do it. Another one is trying to mix up the fandoms. Like I don't want to do 19 Star Trek cosplays in a row. I could do 19 Star Trek cosplays in a row and I'd probably be fine with that, but I do like to mix it up a little bit. So, you throw in a Star Trek and a Ben 10 and a Marvel and a Star Wars, and just kind of change it up a little bit. And then, a Harry Potter and a Lord of the Rings, and just to kind of keep it mixed up a little bit so it's not always the same fandom. And I think it's more fun because then you get to revisit the different fandoms too. So I do try to mix up the fandoms a little bit, just in case, like somebody may not necessarily like Lord of the Rings and don't want to watch 50 Lord of the Rings tutorials in a row. So if you mix them in, just kind of makes for a better experience for everybody, I think. Another one is price, and this kind of goes with difficulty because oftentimes the more difficult costumes cost more to make. I pay for all the materials that I use to make the tutorials myself. I'm not one of those fancy channels with sponsors or anything, so I pay for everything myself. So if a costume is going to be really expensive, I may either break it into more pieces or move it down a little bit until I've done a few that are not very expensive that might be like using up stuff I've already got or whatever. Like, what was the one, I think? The Isabella costume. I already had all the stuff I needed it, so I didn't have to purchase any supplies to make it, so that one kind of got bumped up the list because I already had everything that I needed to do it. So it saves me money when I'm creating my costumes. And so one of them is popularity, like how many requests a specific costume has gotten, because sometimes I get some that are like really obscure. It'd be like, you know, one person requested one character who was in one episode of one season of some show that only lasted a season that only 10 people watched or something, and then you'll get another costume that, like, you know, 300 people request this character or whatever, and it just kind of makes sense to do the one, to bump up the one that, you know, a million people want to see first, rather than the one that, you know, that one person on the planet wants to see. And I do those. I do the really obscure ones, but I don't want to do like just a bunch of those really obscure ones right in a row when you've got so many people requesting like a different character or whatever. So the number of requests does play in. It's not the main deciding factor, but it does factor in with the other factors that are part of how I decide how to choose my videos for the week. And then the final thing I use to determine it is relevance. So if it's like a movie that's out that year or something, and somebody requests a character from that movie that's out that year, sometimes I'll bump those up a little bit because a lot of people are looking to go like for Halloween or to a costume convention that year as that character because that movie's popular that year, and so it makes more sense to do it that year since a lot of people will want to go as that. And I mean, most of them are pretty much relevant. I mean, like, you know, you're going to be doing Star Trek for the next 1,000 years and it's still going to be relevant. But, you know, if there's something specifically new to that year, it's kind of fun to do it that year because a lot of people will be looking for it, and so they'll be thrilled to see it on there, you know, the tutorial that they're looking for. So I do try to move those up a little bit sometimes if they're relevant, because I've had a few in the past when I was just doing them in order. I had some where people requested from movies that were relevant that year, and I didn't do them because they weren't in order, and then I really wished I had done them that year because, if nothing else, I'd have liked to have worn them that year because the movie was out or whatever, and I'm sure that they would have liked to, and then, you know, by the time I get to it, they don't even care about it anymore because, you know, they wanted to go that year the movie was there or whatever, and so depending on the relevance, I do sometimes move those up a little bit as well. So it's kind of a combination of those seven different things. So it's not just order, it's not just, you know, any of the other 6, it's just kind of a combination of the 7 that make up how I choose what I'm going to do that week. So it's just kind of a mixed bag, but that's essentially how I do it, and it seems like that's the most fair way to do it, since there's no way that I can do every request that I get eventually, you know, like if I live to be 1,001 and continue to do videos every week, then I could probably cover them all, but barring that unlikely possibility, I'm not going to be able to do them all, so I just kind of came up with a way to fairly decide what to do.